Hello and welcome back to the Celestial Perch. Today, or tonight, I have a relatively interesting and new video for you guys. As Christmas is approaching, I've decided to create a more roleplay based empire. As the recent poll kind of showed me, there are quite a few people interested in roleplay based empires, so we're going to be basing this around Christmas, of course. So we have here the Rogue Tree Farm. The basis of this build is that a rogue tree farm kind of gained like sentience and then took over a planet and is kind of trying to fight back or spread their tree farms across the galaxy. And in doing so, we've of course taken Tree of Life, as that makes the most sense. We're a hive mind, so that we could take Tree of Life, and then we've also taken, you might be saying, why permutation pools? Well, this, in my mind, I like to think of it as, when you have like a Christmas tree and you put them in their kind of little pool of water. The trees kind of adapted to that, and to keep their brethren alive that were, chopped up and put into those little pools. They still do it to some people, but now it's kind of like they've adapted it and made it a lot more powerful. And then Ascetic as well, because although Christmas trees are usually like adorned in ornaments and like sort of material comforts, they've since turned away from that and are now more of like an Ascetic empire. And then of course, I've chosen the strong trees, pretty strong, pretty tall, budding. They can, grow naturally, and then phototropic because, they need sunlight. And I've chosen slow learners because they're just kind of slow in nature, and then sedentary because they don't really move too much. Alpine because it makes the most sense. And for the species, I believe this is like the noble fir species. I actually looked up like the real name, and I think it's either noble fir or like royal fir, or one of them, but we're using that. And then of course the flag is a little bit more focused around like a green earth and a tree kind of flag with the red background, the red and green for Christmas. But this is the Rogue Tree Farm, and the goal of this is to expand across the galaxy, and any organic empire we find, we're going to try to either vassalize or take over, as we can't trust them. They're probably abusing the trees on their planet and turning them into like Christmas tree farms. So that's kind of the goal there. But this is the overall idea of the build. It's not very powerful, at least, just from like a kind of close glance, but it'll be fun and it'll be roleplay based. And we'll go into the game details here in a second, just to give you a basic idea of what we're going to be using for this setup. So looking at the game details, we're going to be keeping this at a relatively similar setup to what I use for the single player games. The only thing I'm going to change, I'll go through this really slowly in a second here. The only thing I'm going to change is that I will turn Caravaneers back on. They're sort of annoying, but at least they provide a little bit more of a roleplay element to it. So as you can see, I've turned this on. Normally for roleplay games, I'd also turn the L-gates back on. It's just that I'm on my laptop for the holidays, so I don't have access to my desktop, and even with my desktop in the late game or the mid game, it can kind of start to slow down with the L-gates, and the pathing that the AI has with it is a little bit worse than you'd expect. So we'll just go with these settings, still on Grand Admiral. If we can play this on Grand Admiral and have some relative success, then you should be able to play it on any difficulty. I don't know how effective this will be in multiplayer. Hive minds are not my favorite. I don't play them as much as Megacorps or just regular organic empires, but they are fun, and we'll just see how it goes. Now here we are with our Rogue Tree Farm, and just an aside, I was planning initially on doing a Devouring Swarm. That would be kind of like they were seeking retribution for their tree farming activities, but then I couldn't take a Tree of Life, and I kind of liked the roleplay element of Tree of Life with a tree farm. Relatively fitting. So I decided to go with that in the end. There are a few just kind of upgrades you could do, of course, if you're looking to make this a bit more multiplayer friendly or just generally more powerful. But for now, we'll just kind of keep it as is and play with it and see how we're going to go. Now, just because we're playing a roleplay build doesn't mean we have to play poorly or make decisions that are overall not great for our empire. So we're still going to be playing as effective as we can within the constraints of roleplay. So first, let's just go over to the market. We won't need to look at the government because there won't really be anything for us to grab there. So we're going to grab some more minerals. Start with 52 for a month, and then we can sell some of our food because we won't need too much of it for now. We can sell those, and then for policies, we can change to isolationist, and we can leave everything else as is. In terms of our edicts, we can turn on fortify the border once we have enough alloys to actually spend to upgrade our star bases, but for now, we'll just leave it as is. No other changes here. In terms of technology, we'll start with our physics and work our way down. Pretty solid. I think we'll just go for the extra physics from brains drones. This is really nice. It's tempting to pick up hydroponics farming. It's just we probably won't have enough alloys to get these up and running right now. So I think for now, we'll just grab the biodiversity studies. The Unity is also great, but I think we'll go with biostudies and then nanomechanics as well. It's never bad to just pick up the extra research from your researchers, or brain drones in this case, as in the early game it'll make the most benefit. And the rest of the stuff here, we could just look for a good governor. That's great. Got an architectural interest governor there. And then we do have some okay scientists, like they have some extra benefits, but we will want the particles and material scientists, as well as eventually a voidborn scientist. And in terms of our shipyards, we get the solar panel networks, which is quite nice, and we can just delete the crew chambers. Don't really need it. As well as we can either just delete these ships or use them to explore for a bit in the early game, but for now, I might just delete them. And then, of course, we'll be looking for our planets. We chose an Alpine. We've got a tundra world over there, so we'll get another planet to settle to. That's quite a nice start. And then on our planet, we're still going to be looking to develop a lot of technology. So research labs will be useful, as well as some energy. I think we'll start with a generator district and then work our way through as much research as we can, eventually replacing some of these agricultural drones, as we will have hopefully enough food from our star bases to replace those and put them into either some researchers or some other generator districts. But we can check back in at a certain point. I'm not going to commit to either year 15 or 30 like I would for a normal basic build or more meta-focused build. For this, I'll just check back in kind of a point where it makes sense for roleplay. But thank you, and let's see how it goes. Hello everybody, checking back in at year 30, 31. I decided to forego the year 15 check-in just because not much was going on. And I kind of want to keep this video a bit shorter because it's more focused on roleplay, so there really isn't a necessity to kind of check in as often as I do with more of the more meta-focused or more powerful-focused builds. This one's just kind of for fun. But in terms of how much fun I'm having with the build, it is relatively enjoyable. Christmas tree farm here, doing pretty well. We've been able to get some relatively okay numbers here. A small amount of pops, 120 pops, not too bad, probably could have some more. In terms of how I like the two Civics I've taken, as well as the Tree of Life, I had never taken any of these before. I don't play Hive Minds too much, but Tree of Life is kind of interesting. It doesn't seem exceptionally powerful, but it is at least kind of cool. We get the little Tree of Life sapling planetary feature here, which, as you can see, for the saplings, we get some extra pop growth speed, extra society research, some housing, and some agricultural districts, just for some food upkeep. And then for, of course, our main planet, we get the actual Tree of Life, which gives us just a teensy bit more pop growth speed, and a lot of housing, and some more agricultural districts. In terms of how I feel about it overall, it's just kind of secondary, I guess. There's nothing too crazy about it so far. It's interesting in the sense we don't really have to deal with housing as much. Don't have to build as many housing districts if you need to. Been trying to keep my amenity drones to a relative minimum, but been able to expand to quite a good amount of territory here. We'll go over our situation briefly. We have two neighbors, some other plants, and then these kind of like weird necrophage people. But I was able to become pretty good friends with these people, and they've guaranteed my independence. So I wasn't too worried about building up fleets. We did fortify this system just as a 6.2k starbase pretty early, so he wasn't able to attack us. That was enough of a deterrent. And then once we got a defensive pact with these guys, he moved all of his fleets away. In terms of expansion, we've been able to secure quite a few planets and are expanding out towards this way. And once we get the Marcab system, we should, if we can, there could be some people there, I haven't checked recently, but if we get around these systems, then we'll have pretty much all of this territory. In terms of where to go from here with this build, like I said, it is focused a little bit more on roleplay, so I wasn't too worried about the numbers. And I haven't played too many hive minds. I play them occasionally, but I had never done Tree of Life or Permutation pools. This one is interesting. It takes a while to get off the ground, and just even building a few industrial districts, it's not really going to affect very much. It feels like you have to build, I mean, obviously you have to build a lot more around it, but it's definitely not something you can just kind of take and get a ton of benefit out of in the early game, it seems. But overall, the build's been rather fun. We've been able to set up our Christmas trees, and eventually, with the help of our neighbor up to the north, we can build up our tech advantage slowly but surely. You know, we're falling behind in tech, but I mean, that's just kind of what you expect when you're playing a little bit more of a roleplay build. And we don't have nearly as many alloys as I normally have, but just more so kind of expanding and having fun with it. Still, though, not falling apart to the AI, and as soon as we're able to secure a few more necessary techs, I think we got destroyers, but I believe we're missing cruisers. Yeah, we were able to get destroyers, able to get starholds, able to get the casts. We're just missing cruisers. And I have a Voidborn scientist, or Voidcraft scientist, so hopefully we'll see it eventually, but we haven't seen them yet. And then in terms of society, just picked up some generally nice techs, and physics, of course, just some other generally nice techs. Got some moat stabilizations. We actually have quite a few moats on our territory here, so that was kind of lucky. But aside from that, I've been enjoying the build. Nothing here is meant to be exceptionally powerful, but I have been enjoying it. But let me know if you guys would be interested in something similar to this, if you'd like me to lean a little bit heavier into roleplay and go over something else. I have a few other kind of ideas in the works, but if you have something specific, please let me know. If not, just continue to watch the videos, like and subscribe, and of course, have a blessed day.